I'm Mike Zeller, with me Joe Ryan here. We're at Greenway East, the largest duckpin facility in the world, all 68 lanes, and we're here for the Women's National Duckpin Association Tournament. We're finishing up with the finals.
Mike, we have the 8 girls left. The first match will have Pat Loomis versus Pat Malthan. First prize, $1,000.
All right, we'll meet our bowlers and get our first match underway coming up on Duckpin Magic right after this. We've got a battle of the two Pats, Pat Malthan, Pat Loomis, here as we get our first match underway on Duckpin Magic, the WNDA Women's National Duckpin Association. It is the women's edition of the Duckpin Professional Bowlers Association and the men's DPBA, the Women's Pro Tour, and these two ladies certainly no strangers to each other on the Pro Tour circuit.
Hold many Pro League matches against each other in the Baltimore area. Pat with a high average of 140, qualifying score 1062, high single 217, 1-4, and lost 1 today with 664 total pinfall. Fouled on the second ball. She'll get the pins that she hit, giving her an 8 frame. Pat Malthan.
Well, we saw that in a match previous to this, in the men's tournament at Greenway Bowl, Brian Koulis fouled late in the match and was still able to manage to hang on by a couple of pins.
It can be a very upsetting thing to foul because it gets your wheels turning, Mike. You get away from what it is you're trying to do. We have Pat with 4 pins remaining, third ball in hand. 8 stars on the back of Pat Malthan, 10.
She's going to go down each sleeve. She keeps going. Well, not everybody has to worry about, right?
Yeah. I tell you, if you watch Pat, her approach is it's just nothing fancy, walks up, but her timing is so good. Watch where she releases the ball. I call it a little cut shot. If you watch her hand at the bottom of the swing, she sort of just flips it out of her hand.
Pat hold her the 9-game world record at 14:21.
She had tough going today, Mike. She averaged 150 and won 3 games out of 5. So she could very well, I don't know what, right off the top of my head, what pinfall is high. But I guarantee you, as far as pins knocked down, she was probably in the top 3 today. It's a big pinfall, 750 for 5. Pat Loomis. After 8 in the first frame and a foul, let's see if she makes an adjustment here.
Still pretty close to the line as well.
Well, if you watch, most pro bowlers, men and women, use the approach. You want to get as close to the pins as you can, and you just get a feel for it. Every once in a while, your foot will... See, she's sort of stopping, and then it seems to be pushing forward after the momentum of throwing the ball.
Highest league average for Pat, 140, high single 217, high 3-game set 516. He's up with 10 there.
Back in 1980, Pat had just a super year. Won a ladies' professional duckpin tour when it was the LPDT in 1980. She was the bowler of the year in 1980. Won the Good Neighbor Ladies Open here in the Baltimore area in 1980, and looked like she was on her way to a lot of good things. And of course, the ladies' pro tour is a pretty strong competition. There's 6 off the side, the 1, 3, 6, and 9. Easy spare shot. I tell you, Mike, it's so hard to get in the groove out there. The first few frames are so critical because you just cannot concentrate. You're thinking about so many things, and you just can't get locked in. You know what you want to do, but when you step up, it's just, you go blank, and the wheels start turning.
Well, it is difficult, and unless you get on track early, it's very difficult to come back and put yourself on track because a lot of variables start entering your mind, and the pressures, of course, are there. And
I tell you, Mike, it just, if you talk to any of the TV competitors, they'll tell you it's so hard for them to get into what I call a thought routine. You've heard it called mind management, the whole works. And I think it's something that the bowlers are not aware of, that we have to practice as much as the physical part.
Pat Malthan, with a mark?
I've talked to many of the pro bowlers about it, and then they'll ask, well, how do you practice mentally? So, well, you practice what it is you want to do, and you just push that train of thought into your mind, and nice ball. Strike.
Now, Pat wastes no time, puts up a spare and a strike in a real quick matter of seconds.
I can tell you, sometimes standing on that approach, you feel like somebody tied your shoes together. That's how there in the middle. There's what happens, Mike. You come out of the gate and you fish for a couple frames, and you think, well, I want to hit the head pin. I'm embarrassing myself. So you aim it. And we know that these people just have enough talent that they can aim it. They can hit the front one, but that's really not the name of the game. Had a pin disappear. It flew up and never came back.
So they call it duckpin magic. You knew there was a reason for that.
Yes.
Well, Pat has come back recently from elbow surgery, so she's just getting back into the swing of things.
I can't think of anything worse to a bowler than surgery on the elbow.
There's Pat Malthan, winner of 8 tours. She's the women's equivalent to Peter Peters in terms of the all-time leading winner on the tour.
Break 1, 2, 4. She's got to get things going here. We know that Pat knows how to win. You don't want to give her too much room, or she'll run off and hide on you.
I guess it's elbows and knees, right? Bowlers' worst enemies.
Well, we saw Swedes
had a little back
because it's quite a jolt when you hit the line. Nice spare by Pat Loomis in the 5th frame.
I know there was nobody out there that felt worse than you did in terms of bowling Swede. And I know in ordinary situations you probably would have withdrawn, but because it was TV, sort of gutted it out and stayed until the end.
Well, and a lot, nice shot. I'll tell you, maybe something. And a lot of people thought it was Swede's knee because that's what he was bracing himself, but it wasn't his knee. He's been having trouble with his back. I guess he has a pinched nerve. And
even before the tournament, it was bothering him, but you know, the starting, the stopping, I think that's probably the worst thing that you could do to any kind of injury is to warm up.
He's a big man, you know, and I'm sure that I practiced with him prior to the match, and you could tell then he was having some trouble. And that was sort of at his leisure. He'd throw a couple balls, wait 5 minutes, and you could tell it wasn't the Swede labors that you're generally going to have to contend with.
And you came out and you bowled a pretty good match anyway. In fact, Frank and I were talking about it, saying that you probably went out and maybe the opponent, the pins, and just try to put the best score on the board.
It was really tough to concentrate because you do feel bad for a guy when you know he's hurting, and that's the part. It's not a mental game at that point. It really was physical with Swede. Pat Loomis working on a spare is Pat Malthan. Spare, strike, spare, spare. 3 through 6 frames. That's to the right. Need a little help. Okay, 7 off the side. 1, 2, 9.
78.53 after 5. Pat Malthan already has a spare in the 6th. Pat Loomis working on the spare here. Oh.
No luck. Not long enough, Mike. Will not reach. Tell you, Pat's just having all the lady pros are good head pin shooters, and she's had a little problem hitting the front pin. And when you're not hitting the front pin, it sort of messes your whole game up. That's the foundation for the game.
Yeah, you've got to give yourself that good opportunity, and that only comes about when you hit the head pin.
It really does, and it's how can you throw the second ball with any confidence when you're not throwing the first one where it belongs. It's especially if you're fishing and you don't know what it is you're doing. And I think in a lot of cases we don't. Not under this pressure. We're not used to operating under the pressure of the TV. And And again, the fact that and she had a tough start. She fouled on the second ball of the match.
And that's got to make you start thinking about your approach and where you're sliding up to the line.
I tell you, Pat does a lot of things that Joe Rainier does. You've got to bend that knee and get in good position like I preach that Swede does so well. He squats even with his bad back. He just couldn't follow through. He was cutting the ball. But it's just so hard to throw the ball accurately when you're not in a good, solid position. See how smooth it was?
Yeah.
A nice knee bend. Everything was square. Her shoulders were sort of even with her slide foot, the ankle of her slide foot. She wasn't leaning forward. And that's what Pat Malthan does so well. See, she's down.
Just going to grab one.
Yeah, that ball, she sort of really undercut that, where the guy that hooks the ball, or the woman that hooks the ball, goes around it. The person that backs the ball up sort of cuts across it and slices it, so it's not spinning end over end. Look, pretty close. 6-7 remaining.
She doesn't waste any time either. She's got ball number 1, ball number 2, ball number 3, and she's gone. And she's giving our director crying moments.
Where do I catch up? Where'd Pat go, right? She once started a match on the wrong lane, threw a strike, found out she was on the wrong lane. This was on TV, Mike. Right here at Greenway, stepped over on the other lane, threw a strike. I said, it didn't bother most people. It's like, oh man, I'll probably only throw one strike a game.
You got to start all over again.
9-game world record, 14-21. A little mathematics would tell you that's quite an average. 244 high game, that's a big game. Spare, frame 8.
It really is. We've talked about it before. String 6 strikes together, maybe 7, and you're in the low 200s, so you've really got to put together quite a game. Get up in that 240, 250, 260 area.
It's unbelievable. I was fortunate enough to have 213 to qualify. I had 5 strikes in a row. I had a spare and I had a double and 9 in the last strike. Nice ball. Smoothed it out. In my mind, I call it just sitting. I don't really say get down or bend your knee. It's just too much to understand. You just sit and you can glide into your slide. And when we're like jumping into a slide, it throws our shoulders forward and it changes your target from 60 feet away. It pulls it up to where your shoulders are actually pointing at the deck in front of you, the lane in front of you, and you just can't get through your shot. It looked like, I know today myself, and I watched some other bowlers, and the lane conditions are such, if you make a mistake, the ball doesn't react the same. It does what it should do. If you go around it, the ball doesn't finish. It'll kind of slide, and it looks like, boy, that was tough luck. It looked like a good ball. But it's not. If you hit the ball, it will react very good here at Greenway. See if you can do it again. Make a match out of this, Mike.
Yep.
Ninth frame.
Trailing by 30 pins.
Oh, pins got together, yep. Good ball.
Winner here will move on to face Betty Caputo. Good run down the top 7 bowlers from the tournament. Diane Jasper sitting on top, the number 1 seed. Number 2, Adele Asiminios. Number 3, Teresa Pearson. And 4 is Chad Smith. As mentioned, number 5 is Betty Caputo, and she'll be facing off against the winner here. 30-pin advantage for Pat Malthan. So she misses here, and that'll tighten things up somewhat, only because Pat Loomis already has a mark in the ninth.
Well, Pat's in good shape. It's 131 after 9. If Pat Loomis were to strike out, it would give her 142, and Pat would need a mark. But if the first ball that Pat Loomis throws, it's not a strike, it's over.
Okay, Pat Malthan will come over.
Or if she marks, it's over.
Yep. Be a tough assignment to do that. Let's see what Pat has in store here. Loomis missed it.
Pat slowed it up there a little bit.
Yeah, a little
I think
bit.
she has a little concern.
Second half of the match. Picked up one.
I'll tell you what happens, Mike. You really don't like to get up and bowl the 9th and 10th frames knowing all you have to do is mark and it's over. You don't like to give a bowler a shot to beat you when you could have put him away. It's so many times it jumps up and gets you. Pat Loomis has to strike on this ball. Must be a strike. Good ball. It's all over, Mike.
Give it a shot, but couldn't carry the strike. And so Pat Malthan will go on to face Betty Caputo in our second match. Pat Loomis finishing up here in the 10th frame, looking for a mark. Yep, picks one, and so we'll finish up with the third ball here. .120, 20-pin decision for Pat Malthan. Betty Caputo and Pat Malthan will do battle when we return on Duckpin Magic right after this. Pat Malthan and Betty Caputo going at it here in the second of three matches on today's Duckpin Magic. Pat, winner of the last match, will be forced to bowl first. Betty is the higher of the two-seated bowlers, so she has the option. She has chosen to make her opponent bowl first, which means the opponent will finish last. You have to bowl with hopefully considerable pressure on the in the 10th frame.
It does happen. Whoa, my whole back row it would have made. Leaned them over. Betty Caputo, no stranger here to Greenway Bowl. 1985, she won her pro tour here. She won in 1987 at T-Bowl. And won 2 LPDT, the Ladies Professional Duckpin Tour, in 74 and 78. She won All-Stars in 1975 and 1985. 10 years apart, highest average 134, which is really surprising, but because Betty has always been a good tournament bowler.
She makes a nice shot there to pick up the mark in the first frame. 1071 was her 8-game qualifying score. It's a pretty good score considering that Betty had a 110 and a 100 thrown in there. And she gets a bunch to go down there.
Nice break. 6, 9, 10 remaining. Washington Redskin football fan. And you don't want to talk bad about the Redskins to a Redskin fan.
Well, pressure is back on Pat Malthan. Betty steps forward, puts up 2 marks in the first 2 frames.
Good ball. No open frames yet, Mike. 3 spares.
Yep, Pat drops 9 there.
Pat's got a little charged up here. She sort of looked like she went to sleep at the end of her first match. I tell you, the heat can do that to you, Mike. We've had an extremely, it's just hot here at Greenway. It is very hot and humid outside, has been for the entire week. We're just, fighting temperatures in the 90s, and I think our normal around this time of year is about 80, so the humidity may be higher than the temperature. It's in a building the size of Greenway Bowl East with 68 lanes, it's just when you fill it with people, it's impossible to keep it cooled down.
Do have the ceiling fans moving today, which also helps to distribute some of the air, at least give it a little moving air feel inside.
You got a little candle power in the lights we have distributed for TV also.
A few thousand watts
a piece.
That will show the third ball in the frame. And she's got it for 10, 45 after 3. And here's Betty Caputo operating on 2 straight spares.
35 apiece. Just made the 6, 9, 10, so she'll be pretty familiar with the
Basically has to shoot it the same way, right?
location. That's right. You want to hit the number 6.
3-0 for Betty. She went 4-1 in head-to-head competition, 676 total pinfall.
Big ball here, Mike. Time match. She's working on a spare. Hold it. That's not a bad 7. She's left the 1, 7, and 10. Not easy, but very possible spare shot.
Much better than a 5, 7, and 10.
Exactly. You have 2 rows separating the pins, about 40 inches between the center of the number 1 and the center of the number of 7.
Slid it by on the right side.
That's the upsetting part. You really shouldn't be, I don't believe, trying to make that. You've just thrown the first ball and missed the head pin, so, you know, I don't think you should turn around and shoot half of the head pin with the second ball.
60 after 4 for Betty Caputo. Winner here will go on to face Karen Smith, the 4th seeded bowler. Watch out.
Sounded like she broke a bottle when she got those that time. They've been funny. You know, you watch a pin roll and it hits a pin and it sits and wiggles, and then every once in a while one's rolling slow and it knocks the pin over, and you think, you have to wait. Bullseye.
Not waiting is Pat Malthan, who comes back with a mark.
When she gets going, she likes to keep going.
Well, she trails in the match by 5 pins, but with a mark or any kind of a count over 5, she'll take the lead here in the match.
She liked that. She liked that. Well, she should have. Nice stroke. I tell you, one of the tough parts about bowling the 2 frames, Mike, is the balls really, the machines just aren't made to send them back that fast. And nice ball there. Oh, 9. And you throw a strike or you make a spare and you go over on the other lane, and you really don't, you'll see the bowler wait and you wonder what they're waiting for. They really don't want to throw their first ball until they know the second one's coming back, or you're going to have a break between the first and the second ball, and it's a little unnerving at times.
Well, Betty comes right back with a mark of her own. Good match going. 5th frame, midway through, 75 plus for Pat Malthan, 70 for Betty Caputo. Both bowlers on marks in the 5th.
I think you have a situation here where both of these bowlers are experienced. They know how to win. They've been there before. And
She came around that one.
well, I tell you, Mike, and she's got away with 2 balls on that lane, and she didn't get away with this one. She hit the 2 on the button. I guarantee you she was telling herself not to do that on the way up. Yes, the pull to the left and the chopping the 2 on a mark when you're 5 behind will mess up your mental game just a little bit, sort of scrambles it.
We're going to clean up some of these pins here. Gets 2. 80 after 6.
Big ball here, Mike. This has an opportunity to open up some distance between herself and Betty. 3 plus. She's working on a strike, and Betty's opened in frame number 6.
Nope, missed the head pin.
Got a little careful that time. She's amazing at making shots like this when she misses the head pin. She really doesn't let it disturb her. Right, Joe. Little overcorrection. Threw the first ball to the right, second one to the left. Good practice ball here. You use this to set up the next frame.
94-80, 14-pin advantage for Pat Malthan. They're looking to advance to fight it out for a $1,000 first prize in this WNDA event, plus the star that goes along with the victory.
I think the big thing here, Mike, we started out with the 7th seat, bowling 6, and right up the ladder, and I think the big thing is to get to next week. If you can win 3 matches, of course, you're going to come back next week and start, and you have 3 more to win. But it's starting all over. So we all know how hard it is to win 3, 4, 5 matches in a row at this level. But if you win them one at a time, it's who knows? It's 3 or 4 in a row.
Pat puts 9 up on the board. Now there's 2 open frames. Let's see if Betty Caputo can jump up and take advantage of it.
Exactly what you don't want to happen when you're ahead in a match. She can next time she's up, she could be behind. A little tight on the head there.
Yep.
Down by 14. Really didn't need that break. Now I tell you, the pin action here, if you catch the number 6, you can slap it off the wall. So you really have to shoot this like it's a 2-pinner. Not like that. It's a tough slide shot because the 4 and the 6, of course, are over 2 foot between them, and they're in the same row, so you really got to slide it straight across. It's tough to do.
14-pin lead continues for Pat Malthan as we head to the 8th.
Both bowlers with 4 marks, and of course we know the big difference was Betty's 2-pin chop. On her mark in the 6th frame, her first ball. Nice ball there, number 6. It's been shooting this pin a lot, so. See her hand go around it?
Yep.
The elbow got outside.
To the left of the pin it went, and she'll try to throw the 3rd ball, pick up 10 here. Well, she couldn't take advantage of the fact that Pat Malthan left 2 open frames. She does the same. And we head to the 8th frame for Pat Malthan. Winner will face Karen Smith in our next match coming up. Push through the middle.
Trip the left side out. There's the 3, 6, and 10 remaining.
Pat wastes no time. Looking for the mark. She's got it.
Got the 3 tight outside, but tripped it off the wall. Big ball here. She can almost ice it with a good count. Or at least put Betty into the strike portion of the game where they're going to have to be a must. Betty can shoot 159 with the 4-bagger. Pat 121 in the 8th, shooting at a spare in the 9th frame. The right side stayed up a lot, Mike. There's a 6-10 again.
Leads it by 22.
Right down the rail. She shoots it out.
And a mark in the 9th for Pat Malthan.
I tell her she should move to shoot that, but when she has 8 with 8 stars, I don't think I'm going to tell her anything.
Oh, you can tell her. You may not listen.
Her opponents would probably like me to tell her. I hope that she listens.
Strike, right there.
Playing 9, so she can make a game of it, but she's going to have to throw a couple more. At least 2 more. Pat Malthan 131 with a spare in frame 9, 109 with a strike in frame 9 for Betty as she bowls the 10th frame. You can certainly change things around here. I mean, it's the pressure. The thing with this is the pressure's really not on Betty. She's in the hole big enough that you just go up and execute, and if it works out for you, all the better.
Got to be a strike.
A little strong. Good ball. Left the 3-6. She can finish with 139 if she makes this and strikes, and it would keep, Pat would have to keep the ball in play, stay behind the line. It's always something to contend with. Not now.
With the 1 break. Yep. She'll finish up with a 127 or 128.
Pat Malthan wins 1 more.
128 for Betty Caputo, and Pat Malthan will finish up here. Well, I guess it's a good thing that Betty didn't get the mark there.
Double or triple would have been closed things up considerably. I tell you, with Pat, you mentioned the cameraman has to stay on his toes because you don't want to try to follow her around. We're finishing the 140. Shot 140 her first game. This one will be probably 145. I would say she'll hit the number 5 with her last ball in this match.
exactly what she does. 145, 128 win for Pat Malthan. She'll come up against Karen Smith in our next match, coming up right after this. Our final match today in Duckpin Magic features Karen Smith, winner of 2 Pro Tours, taking on winner of 2 straight matches at Pat Malthan.
Karen Smith, qualifying score 10:45. Today she won 4 and lost 1, shot 714. So 140, almost 143 average for today's game. Highest Pro Tour finish, of course, is first, as you see 2 stars on her back. She was won the Good Neighbor here in the area, which is an open ladies tournament in 1987 and 1991. Was on her TV taping last year from Greenway. Bowls at Greenway.
Really bends forward.
She does what I say not to do, but she does it well, and she does it every time. It's amazing how you watch. And she's almost parallel with her body from the waist, and still gets her arm through the ball. It's
Off and running is Pat Malthan.
oh, the wrong pin fell.
Oh, give her the other one now.
That was the number 5, which doesn't matter what it was. If she hits the deadwood and the machine does not pick that pin up, and you really don't know that until you hit the deadwood, it would go back to the number 6 spot. I personally think she can hit the pedal, but here comes a guy just dropped down out of heaven, moved the deadwood, disappears.
Pretty much on the mark down there, huh? Right on the ball as they don't waste any time, and Pat certainly doesn't waste any time as she goes right at it.
His foot just got out of sight, and Pat was shooting the pin.
I don't think he realized who was there, otherwise he probably would have had some help.
If he used a stick.
Yeah.
Nice 10. Yep. 10 to 10 after 1 frame. Mike, I still have trouble believing that these people want to finish last. It just, I wish we had solid statistics. You and I know from doing it, I would say that the bowler that finishes first, if we had records, it would prove out that they win more times. I really do. Simply because of the turnaround in the 9th and 10th frame.
Mark for Pat Malthan in a second. She is looking to advance to next week's program, where the winner of this match will face off against Teresa Pearson. There's a strike.
Nice ball. She had a lot on. I tell you, she works hard to get her. She stays under the ball, and as you were indicating, the ball is really revving. And if you watch, she's got a nice arm motion, and how she gets her arm through the shot, I just watch what happens there. She definitely leans forward, but watch the arm. Right up over her head. Tough shot. 3, 6, 9, 10. Working on a strike. Both bowlers marked in frame 2.
We have 2 Baltimore bowlers going at it here in our match on Duckpin Bowling from Greenway East in Baltimore.
Sponsored by Miller Lite.
Been involved with the tournament here at the Greenway East for a number of years.
Gosh, since I can remember, Mike. Tough frame, 9 for 38 after 3. Pat Malthan, spare frame 2, 20 plus. Almost slid another pin. Number 5 trying to move, but it fell. Left the 9-10. 28.
We saw Mitch Lewinsky yesterday in qualifying. Hit the 5 pin and slide it on a strike. It was standing up, got hit, it sort of fell down, and then it stood back up and it slid to the edge, and then it fell down again. But he had turned around thinking he had a strike, and that was in the middle of his 200 game.
No kidding.
And thought he had it every course, behind him wowed because the thing stood back up again and it kept sliding, and then it finally fell over again. But he had turned around and was walking away thinking it was a strike, and he almost turned around and saw the 5-pin standing up over there in the channel.
I slid one off the lane today and it stood up. And matter of fact, we right, frame 4. We almost called you because it stood up to the right of the 10. The rule book says that if the pin is off the pin deck, it's considered down, and it was sitting on the gutter molding. And I was bowling George Young, and I said, George, you want to roll in?
Yeah, look at that strike.
Nice ball. You want to go check it? It was obvious from where we were standing that it slid off the deck, but it slid and just sit there. I've never seen that happen before because the molding is actually beveled. Now, it could have been a piece chipped out of it.
Mitch also did that later on in the same match, in the same game. He was shooting a spare at 9 drop. Can't remember what 3 pins were involved, but the 610 was there, and there was a 3rd pin, and he hit the front pin, hit the 6, slid it over, and it sat halfway on the edge of the channel and the deck, and it just sat there.
Never fell?
Nope. Karen misses on the right side. Of course, some wise guy said, "How do you shoot that one, Mitch?"
Yeah, I'll show you.
As a matter of fact, I think he hit the 10 and didn't hit the 6.5.
The head game, right? I mean,
No, Pat's up in the 5th, working on a strike. He looks like, here it comes. Not enough.
Too close to the neck.
Yep.
You really need the belly of the pin, the meat of the pin to hit it.
Mark here. Pat can tie it up and actually put a mark ahead here. He's got it. Tied at 57 in the 4th, but Pat has put a mark up on the board in the 5th, so she'll be leading by whatever she knocks down with this ball.
I'm betting it's a good ball.
Can't get much better than that.
Get that, you can almost see her getting into it.
Do you have that same effect at the racetrack, or?
No. No. Told me
Same
stick to what
insight?
you know, Mike.
Yeah.
You know? Nice ball.
Yep,
Across
there's
the
a 5.
front end behind the number 5. Important she make this right here. Mike got herself in a little bit of hole. Of course, she didn't dig it. Pat just has bowled well. Strike, spare, strike the last 3 frames. Big pin for Karen. She's 10 down.
Karen, Bowler of the Year, 1987 for the WNDA. Ooh! Well, she couldn't have missed that by much.
It was a situation where she threw the ball well, and it grabbed the lane. Would have been a good first ball, but by the time it got to the 5, which is a couple feet behind the number 1,
right on the nose with that one. So she misses the mark, picks up 77 after 6. And of course, Pat working on a strike with a 10-pin lead.
Was my good buddy Frank Applestein kind to everyone?
Especially kind to you.
The man knows a lot about bowling.
Well, he remarked a couple of times that you were being your own worst enemy out there.
Well, he's right.
Because you got off to a quick start in one of the matches, and then looked like you had second thoughts near the end.
Fell asleep, right? I just...
But Frank does know a lot about bowling, and
I wish he'd have told me instead of everybody that's watching, you know? I was the one needed to know that. Frank knows I have that ability to get out of concentration and start thinking. Good ball.
watch out!
First double. It's something about the weekend, maybe her first double, or I guess she'll try and get herself calmed down here. Hopefully it takes a little while for the ball to come back and she can put herself back together. I told you, you can almost see it building in Pat. She kind of just feels her way along, and then all of a sudden you'll see her get aggressive.
Well, that's a double. Strike 7. 6th and 7th frames. On the way again, leaves 2. Counts big on the double.
Put a little space between herself and Karen. Strike, spare, strike, strike, and that's a little left. Got a little lazy that time. Kind of pushed it down the lane. See if she puts it back together here and comes out of it with 10.
She's got the 10. 133 after 8 for Pat Malthan. Karen steps back in, needing to put a lot of strikes on the board here. Oh.
She's done it the same way when she missed the 5-pin. She crisscrossed. She's got the pins coming off the wall, just a little unlucky.
She did count the 9 on the mark, 7.
Lifted that ball. You see where she hit it there. When she shot it before, it run across in front of the 5. That time she stayed under it, got it out on the lane a little bit, and it sort of held its line.
She's trailing by 27, 133 to 106, but she is working on the mark and will be able to close the gap.
Cut it by 10 with a good ball here. She needs a strike. She needs to set herself up for the 10th frame. It's a pretty good chance she's going to need a double. At least. Nope.
Just hasn't been able to put a couple of real good frames together here. She's got a couple of strikes in the match, but hasn't been able to string them together. That is a difficult delivery. She is literally bent in half while down low, got that leg stretched out.
And the arm comes up. It amazes me. My arm would be heading towards the left wall if I leaned that way. I just cannot get my arm through if I lean forward. Most bowlers can't. You'll see them at the ball go right simply because they can't come through. Another good ball.
There's the strike.
You can see them. It kind of just crawls. It's digging. 143 plus. The best that Karen can do is strike out in the 10th, 152. Pat's 143 plus in any combination of 6, and it's over. She'll be back next week, Mike. We said that's what the bowler wanted to do, and she's gotten through 3 games here, won them all. 140, 145, and I would say she's going to be maybe in the 70s here, depending on this ball. Working on a strike. A little weak. Left at 3, 6, 9, 10.
Well, it's Teresa Pearson, Adele Asaminios, and Diane Jasper awaiting the winner.
3 bowlers that had impressive qualifying scores and impressive semi-round.
Look at that shot.
Good little dance for us there.
Down the way.
Throw something out of whack here, Pat. Better be careful. You got a week to heal, right? She does have fun when she loves to dance.
Watch this one. They'll be on the way, dance and all, and she'll count 7 more.
Spike's caught in the turf there. She's going to twist an ankle. Nice game.
70 for Pat Malthan. She's having a good time. Winner of 3 straight here on Duckpin Magic.
Cooley shot 455, averaged 151 plus, and now Karen throws a pretty ball.
She's just shaking her head as if to say, couldn't that happen 2 or 3 frames ago? I left the 5-pin.
Well, she threw 3 strikes, had 2 spares, but they were spread out. She
couldn't bunch them together.
When you don't back your strikes up, Mike, she had 3 strikes and really doesn't have a spare in front or behind, you know, and they're really not strikes at that point. They don't help you. Keep you from throwing 2 and 3 balls a frame, but other than that, it's just, matter of fact, it's a little discouraging to see. You know, we don't average 3 strikes a game. I would say the average for the ladies is maybe close to 2 a game for the better.
Finishes up with a 140, nevertheless, and loses 170-140 to Pat Malthan. Pat's off to next week's show, and we'll be back to wrap things up right after this. Welcome back to Greenway Greenway Bowl East, we've got our 4 finalists for next week's show lined up. Pat Malthan, winner of 3 straight, will join the other 3 next week. And for Joe Rainier, I'm Mike Sella. Join us again as we crown a WNDA winner.
And some of the most famous one-liners in screen history.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Start your collection with the outlaw Josie Wales for just $14.99 plus shipping and handling.
You a bounty hunter? Yeah, he's got to do something for a living these days. Dying ain't much of a living, boy.
Part philosopher, part sharpshooter. Josie goes out for revenge.
You gotta get mean. I mean, some mad dog mean.
It's classic Clint.
You gonna pull those pistols and whistle Dixie.
And it's yours with a simple phone call. Other videos include Hang 'em High.
Hang 'em, man. You better look at him.
And a fistful of dollars plus Dirty Harry.
44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off.
Magnum Force.
Man's got to know his limitations.
And Sudden Impact.
People have a nasty habit of getting dead around you.
There's no commitment or minimum number to buy, and you keep only the videos you want, so grab the nearest phone and call us now for the outlaw Josie Wales. From Desperado to Dirty Harry, make the best of Clint part of your video collection. Here's how to order.
To order your Clint Eastwood video cassette, call 1-800-826-1133. That's 1-800-826-1133. Or send just $14.99 plus $3.23 shipping and handling to Clint Eastwood Collection, P.O. Box 10020, Stamford, Connecticut.